Joined now live on the phone from Wellington by Agriculture and Biosecurity Minister Damien O'Connor. Thanks for joining us, Minister. I know you're having a frantic afternoon. Can you tell Hank Schmidt why eradication is the right decision?
Because, John, this is the only opportunity we've got to get rid of a disease that has severe impacts on many animals and is undermining, I guess, the viability of farmers around the world. Some of them are subsidised, some of them have different farming systems, but none of them operate in the same way that we do, and indications are that this disease could have a severe impact on our farming operations, not only in the short term but the long term.
So there were three choices, according to the Prime Minister in the media conference, that you sat beside her at just over an hour ago. Phased eradication, long-term management and doing nothing effectively. Why was it choice number one that you went for, phased eradication? Is there any evidence whatsoever that this can work? It will be unprecedented if it does, won't it?
Yes, it is. Look, all the identified animals have come from one strain of Mycoplasma bovis. We believe that it's come from one incursion, one place. It's been a real struggle to track and trace these animals because our animal tracing system hasn't been what it should be, but we've been working through that systematically and still identified infected animals and herds off the back of those animal movements. And so that gives us a belief that we can identify all these potential infected animals around the country over time and contain and have to cull them and then eradicate the disease.
Minister, I guess the key phrase is over time. As we have all been learning, all the townies in the country have been learning, is that cattle, dairy cows move around in enormous amounts. So as you're catching up, as MPI is trying to find out where the latest infection is, isn't it spreading?
No, we believe, of course, I can't say it might not be, but I'm saying that we have locked down every infected and likely infected herd. There are many, 300 herds, in fact, that we've locked down. There's no movements going from those properties. Not all are positively identified as infected, so we're taking precautions. And while there may be a trace that we haven't found yet, we believe that we are getting on top of it and we've got to move forward. If we backed off this now, there's no hope of ever eradicating this disease.
Compensation has to be provided quickly and adequately, Katie Milne said. Have you been doing that so far? In other words, you can do much better on that front, can't you?
We can do much better on that front, and we've made a commitment that those people who are facing their herds being culled will receive within 10 days, a good portion of their compensation amount. The final amounts, based on working through loss of income from milk and other subsidiary income, may take a little longer, but we're committed to doing that. Look, it's been a learning curve for MPI for everyone across the country, and mistakes have been made. We could have done better. We're committed, with the help of industry bodies and more people on the ground, to help the farmers make the compensation claims, fill them in, get them in, and we'll turn them around in a hurry to ensure that farmers aren't unfairly put under financial pressure.
Healthy cattle will be culled, won't they, if they are the prima facie evidence is that they have been exposed or potentially exposed?
Yes, John, and I think the papers identified that over 10 years we could eradicate up to 126,000 animals, which is a lot of animals. But you have to keep in mind the fact that there's about 1 million cows killed every year from the dairy industry in the normal part of farming practice. And so over, 10 years, that's a relatively small amount. Some are saying around less than 1% of the farms affected in an attempt to try and protect the long-term incomes and viability of over 20,000 farms and farmers and their families throughout the country.
Let's talk about Henk as an example, the universal in the particular. So he gets these cows from Alphonse Stratton. So they start in Southland, they end up in Waikato. They've also, some of the stock, some of this herd has been grazing in Kaitaia. Does that mean that you are fairly certain now, for example, tracing the movement of all the cattle that have come out of or have been connected to this farm in Southland, that there will be Mycoplasma bovis in the north, for example?
Well, we are investigating those farms, and the leads from Henk's farm, absolutely, we are investigating all those properties and testing to see if any animals are infected. And if that is confirmed, then we follow on from the tracing. Yes, this is quite a technical and challenging task, but it's one that's not impossible, and we believe it's worth the effort.
Okay. What's responsible for this infection? How did it come into the country? Do you know that yet?
Not absolutely. No, we are investigating it. MPI have a team doing that. There are a lot of potentially low-risk pathways, semen, embryos, dirty equipment, all of those things. We're hoping that no one blatantly brought this into the country or knowingly did so, but we've got to nail the pathway so that we can try and prevent it happening in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you say dirty equipment is a possibility?
Look, that could be. You know, we've got.
Should farmers be importing dirty equipment into New Zealand?
Absolutely not.
So if dirty equipment is responsible, would you potentially? And I know we're dealing with hypotheticals here, but are there prosecutions that may follow?
Yes, there would be, if that can be proven. And believe me, I share the concern of all the farming community and the wider community as well, that we shouldn't have people who break the law and the results of something like this, which is, catastrophic for some farming families. But that's a separate process. What we've got to do is try and get ahead of this disease so we can contain and then eradicate it.
You're absolutely convinced this is the right decision, and you're absolutely convinced there is a realistic chance of eradicating Mycoplasma bovis. And I guess the question I would like to attach to that is MPI up to this task? MPI has been challenged all the way through this process. It's brand new for them. It's brand new for vets, for Assure Quality, for everyone involved. We've never had to take on a task like this before, and I'm sure mistakes have been made, but we're ramping up. We've given, $100 million since we've been in government to this effort. We're getting more people on the ground. The industry organisations are stepping up with individuals. I think we're doing okay. We could always do better, and we will do better as we learn along this pathway. Damien O'Connor, the Minister who was at that announcement and very much part of the decision-making process, joining us live. We will have more on Mycoplasma bovis and the decision to eradicate later in the program.